giving us blessings that we can proceed, and he will join us midstream. My name is Clive Bacchus. I've been asked to facilitate the opening ceremony. This, of course, is the 11th Caribbean Week of Agriculture, celebrating youth and gender in Caribbean agriculture, each endeavoring, all achieving. We can invite Dr. Gregory Robbins, country representative of CARDI, Antigua and Barbuda, to give you the welcoming remarks. Can we please welcome Dr. Robbins?
Good morning. On behalf of the Executive Director, Dr. Arlington Chesney, Executive Director of CARDI, the staff of the local CARDI Antigua unit, and my colleagues in CARDI regional-wide, let me welcome you to the Caribbean Week of Agriculture and also the media workshop. CARDI has collaborated and supported the media over the past 3 years very collectively, and the effort of raising the profile of agriculture has been one of the thrusts of the Executive Director. We have worked closely with the media in all the islands to promote the research and development activities of CARDI, and also to promote the Institute as a body of scientists that are not only interested in research, but also in the development of the Caribbean peoples from the point of food security and better lives for them in general. We have collaborated with the media, and this is the third consecutive media workshop since the one held in Grenada, and with CTA, IICA, CARDI has put together a method for selecting a media personality for the media awards, which is given at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture gala ceremony. While you're here in Antigua, and I've been working here for the past 5 years, I hope you get the opportunity to see some of the beauty spots in Antigua, experience the sea, sun, and fun activities in Antigua. And I see some of my colleagues here. I hope you get the opportunity to take you around. It's a privilege to be media persons. I've had some good experiences with the media. I've had some bad experiences with the media, but this time around I expect it to be a very good experience. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Of course, once you're dealing with the media, you're going to have mixed experiences, and the media will say that they too have mixed experiences dealing with officials. But enough said about that at the moment. We'd like to now invite the President of the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, Mr. Wesley Gibbings, to join us here and give some welcome remarks as well.
Thank you very much, Clive, Honorable Minister, other members of the head table, Greg Robin, Mikenga, members of the CARDI fraternity, comrades of the ACM, other media colleagues. I'm very happy to be here this morning because it is a continuation of what we consider to be, at the level of the ACM, one of our more important engagements regionally. And it's important for us because we are failing increasingly to see the disconnect between food and agriculture production in the Caribbean and basic questions of our survival as a civilization. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that the region continues to be in crisis. All kinds of crises. Factors that militate against the fact that if we are not in a position to feed ourselves sooner rather than later, the whole cycle of dependence that we fought so very long to free ourselves from will continue to exist in a manner that is likely to undermine us as a Caribbean civilization. It's a very serious question and it's very relevant to the work of media people and organizations such as the ACM, which is very much concerned about freedom of expression and operating in societies where freedom is the norm and not the exception. There are many factors that militate against moving us in that positive direction right now. There are factors that militate against the fact that the food import bill continues to be in the region of US $4 billion a year. I am not sure what the most recent statistics are, but I'd venture a guess that that figure has not improved downward over recent years. The performance of our national economies continues to be poor, with very few exceptions. You know, Guyana has experienced positive economic growth over the past 3-4 years that, in a sense, leading the rest of the Caribbean in terms of the rate of growth and the manner in which such growth has been engaged by their national government. Trinidad and Tobago, for the first time in close to 4 or 5 years, would be registering positive economic growth this year, 1.2%. It is estimated, arguably. As for the rest of the Caribbean, the OECS sub-region is in a negative growth situation for many years now, and must, I believe, very frontally acknowledge the fact that it's a crisis situation. What are some of the other factors that militate against us moving forward and becoming sovereign in the way that we intended, in some cases 50 years ago, in other countries considerably less than that? Growing violence and crime, social displacement, poverty, a lack of social justice, and in too many of our countries, the threat that our state can be captured by interests that have no hesitation about operating in a manner that would continue to undermine us. And I know that there are current debates here in Antigua and Barbuda, and not very far away, which are very, very relevant to this whole fact of us maintaining and growing our sovereignty as independent countries in the 21st century. At the very center of all of this is food and our ability to feed ourselves. I think it can safely be said that if a country is unable to feed itself through whatever notion of feeding oneself one subscribes to, because I know that the experts sometimes shift the ideological slant from being able to grow your own food to being able to access the food that people need. Whatever the definition you're using, I think it's very central. What all of this has to do with media people, what does it have to do with freedom of our societies? Everything. I saw in the most recent edition of Time magazine a tribute to Barry Commoner, who's the founder of the modern environmental movement. In fact, he actually ran for president of the United States in the Green Party in 1980. And his adage was that everything is connected. There's nothing that is unconnected, particularly in our smaller societies. So there's no distinction, in my view, between a journalist covering a food story and a journalist covering a story that has to do with almost every single area of human interest in our countries. So I thought I would say that to sort of set the stage for the seriousness that the ACM approaches this task of informing our membership, informing the journalistic community as to the true issues related to food and agriculture. We have in our midst the experts who will be able to give us the hard scientific data and information. And I think that this year we are poised for a workshop that's going to be different, because we have had the opportunity, thanks to CARDI and the CTA, over the past 3 years of being able to monitor the latest developments. So let's see what happens over the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wesley Gibbings, President of the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, an organization that boasts membership of 200 or more journalists across the English, Spanish, Dutch, and French-speaking Caribbean. We'd now like to invite Mr. Samuel Mikenga, who is the Communications Coordinator of the CTA, the Technical Center for Agricultural and Rural Cooperation. Mr. Mikenga is a friend of the Caribbean, I should say, and he's very passionate about agriculture. I'd like to invite you to help me to welcome Mr. Mikenga.
Thanks. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, and my colleagues. I send greetings from Netherlands. I'm sitting here. The director can't be around now. He's on the way, coming. I think he'll arrive this night. But my name is Samuel Mikenga. I'm a Ugandan, by the way. I work with CTA in Netherlands. I come from East Africa. I had a beautiful presentation too. I had so many beautiful pictures here of the minister and so on, but I couldn't because we don't have the connection. We don't have the... I will talk briefly about CTA. Maybe some of you are new. And then maybe go into the real media stuff. CTA, all of us are based in Netherlands. It has its headquarters in Netherlands, and all of us are there. But it works in Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific. And its strategic areas are to strengthen SCP agriculture and rural development policy processes and strategies, to enhance priority agriculture value chains, and enhancing SCP capacities in information and knowledge management. So, as I said, we're a joint institution. It is a joint institution between SCP and the European Union. And the mission is to advance food security and nutrition, and increase prosperity and encourage sound natural resource management. And these are the areas providing access to information, facilitating ARD policy dialogue, and strengthening capacity of agriculture, as I mentioned. We have like 2 programs, big programs, 7 projects and 1 unit. Oh, it is me. Okay. Now, we've moved a long way, as Clive mentioned. We've moved a long way. In 2010, we came here, we had an experts meeting for media, where we sort of discussed what is relevant to media. What does media want in the Caribbean to promote agriculture? So we had discussions, and after that we came up with some conclusions to the way forward, which we shall deal with. But I wanted just to mention the current approach to the media program with CTA. CTA is looking at more demand-driven approaches to media. When I joined CTA in 2009, I met that CTA was developing products from Europe and sending them to developing countries. So when I came, I said, this can't work, because the one blanket fits all. You cannot say that what is relevant to Europe or Africa is what is relevant to Caribbean. We need to go and ask. Actually, I found one of the video they sent to Europe, to Caribbean and so on, talking about climate change and talking about glaciers. You know the breakdown of glaciers because of climate change? Yeah. So I asked them that, how is this relevant to somebody in the Caribbean? It is okay, it is climate change. But how is it relevant? Why don't you go and use the local content in the Caribbean to demonstrate what climate change is in the Caribbean, in the language they understand, instead of talking about glaciers and so on? These people don't understand that. They understand, maybe loss of biodiversity, things like floods. That is what is meaning to them. So now we are a bit more demand-driven and consultative. We come and ask you what you want. We are more empowering. We teach you how to fish, not to give you fish. What do I mean? When I came, they were developing videos for you. Now we teach you how to make videos such that you can use the videos to educate people about climate change yourselves, using the local content, using the ways people understand. So that is a different shift altogether. We are using a regional approach. CTA now uses a regional approach. For instance, CWA, for instance, Caribbean Association of Media Workers, our approach is regional rather than country or individual. As I said, the emphasis is on local content, and another one is that we have different approaches for different regions. The media approach we are going to use in the Caribbean is not the same we use in Pacific, and is not the same we use in Africa. Actually, when we moved, because we did all these media experts meetings in all the regions, we did in Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific. What we found out that the media development is at different levels in the different regions. We found that our brothers in the Caribbean here are a bit high. You know, when you are talking about media and you are talking about to journalists in the Caribbean, you have to start at a certain level. They know quite a lot as compared to Africa. And actually for Pacific, you have to start from really down. So it is Pacific according to us, our study. Pacific, Africa, and Caribbean. So you can't bring one blanket fits all for all these regions. We have to plan. That's why we go to all regions and ask what is relevant to them. We are looking at strengthening media networks. We are happy that you have media networks in the Caribbean. You have Association of Caribbean Media Workers. You have so many others. So we are looking at how do we strengthen these media networks such that they can help in promotion of agriculture together with the research networks like CARDI and so on. And we are looking at maximizing the potential of new technologies like mobile devices, like Facebook, like all these new things to ensure that we promote agriculture. As you know very well, our time when we were studying in class, Facebook was not anything. I didn't know anything about Facebook until 5 years ago. And even then, when I came into Facebook, I came with a different name because I was fearing what is this new Facebook thing. So I put something like Thomson Clive and immersed myself into the system and sort of checked what goes on there. Now there's good and bad. It's not that everything is bad. There's good and bad, but you have to know how do you harvest the good. And this is what we train. How do you use effectively social media and new technologies to communicate? It can be promoting agriculture, it can be promoting, this is instant, which is the difference. I want to give you the difference between social media and, for instance, print. As we talk here, you've seen all these people. The gentleman there in white shirt is working on social media. That is Facebook, that is Twitter, blogging, and so on. So as we talk now, because I even received messages from Netherlands, they are watching us and they are getting instant messages. When the minister talks, they know what he's talking. They are all tuned, all the stuff in the city are tuned now, what is happening here. So that is another paradigm shift altogether. Because earlier on we were waiting, by now we will be waiting for newspapers in Antigua to produce stories. Now people can sit and get instantly. So how do we use these new technologies to promote agriculture? So what has CTA done? CTA has reached out to media. CTA has held experts meetings. CTA has held pilot projects. We've held pilot projects in Africa and Pacific on how to bring scientists and media together to promote agriculture. Very successful. If you had, I would show you, CTA recently won an award in Africa. 200 journalists gathered in Africa in what is called, they have what is called Association of Agricultural Communicators in Africa. So out of our pilot project, so bring these media together and scientists, we won an award for that, and it's only a pilot. So it is an award-winning approach, which I would like Caribbean to sort of explore further. We facilitate policy dialogues. Ours is engaging media. What do I mean? Earlier on, what happened is that when media comes, they are invited to opening ceremonies. After that, they are told to run away. The ministers talked, go away, let us discuss our things. This is not our approach. We feel that media should be part and parcel of the discussion process. We feel that media should be there to ask the hard questions, be on panel discussions and so on, because they are trained to ask questions. You know, that is their work. So ours is ensuring that media is engaged in the ARD processes and dialogues. We hold, of course, media competitions, you've already heard from somebody else. And of course, in addition, CT has got a huge resource of agricultural information. I just want to talk briefly why we are here, Honourable Minister. We are here to sensitize on a sensitization mission of ARD issues in the Caribbean. We feel that for media to be engaged, better engaged, in agriculture and research processes, they need to know the science itself. They need to know climate change. They need to know the challenges, agriculture challenges facing Caribbean. So what we shall be doing here is sort of to discuss these challenges. There are experts here who are going to talk with us, such that when the people are discussing about value chain or climate change in the Caribbean, we know as journalists what it is, although we are not scientists. We are here to review the media efforts in the promotion of agriculture. What have we done since 2010, and what can we do better? We are here to strengthen our capacity in communication. There will be sort of capacity building sessions, brief though. And we are here to share best practices and new innovations in ARD reporting. People will be giving us examples of how they use social media to communicate and using ICTs to communicate. And we are here to develop a strategy for media promotion in the Caribbean. So the question on the table as we go ahead is, how can we better work together, that is media, scientists, policymakers, and so on, to promote agriculture? That's what we are going to discuss. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Sam. Of course, you've helped us to redefine briefly, and your presentation was quite succinct and to the point. Sam is speaking as well to the ACM about some new ideas in terms of coordinating strategies, not only in the Caribbean, but also in the Pacific as well. And I'm sure you're going to hear some more about that a bit later on. I was very happy when Sam told me last evening we would have a minister with us, because I've had the experience before in some places, not Antigua and Barbuda, where when the minister's there, you have all the cameras, all the lights. And when the minister leaves, the cameras leave as well, the lights leave as well. So I'm very happy to welcome this morning the Honorable Mr. Hilson Baptiste, Minister of Agriculture. Minister of Agriculture, Housing, Lands and Environment, and we look forward to a sterling presentation. Please welcome the Minister, please.
Thank you very much, brother. Mr. Chairman, members of the head table, experts, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me apologize for being late. As a politician, I have many mothers. You know, when you have a lot of mothers, you can't lose election. And so, I went to the longest funeral I ever been to yesterday for one. And my real mother, last night, slept in a hospital. She's still there. Frightened me, so I was up all night trying to be by her side. So I got an hour's sleep between that time when I got home and now. So give me a break. Forgive me if I sleep up here this morning. It's for a just cause. As the host minister of this Caribbean Week of Agriculture, I want to welcome you to Antigua. See many of my colleagues here. Welcome all of you to Antigua. I'm a different kind of minister than the ones you're accustomed to. I consider myself an action minister. And so my challenge would be for you to not have a talk shop, but a workshop that will resound to, will give us some good action and results at the end of the day. Something that we can implement, so everybody in the Caribbean can see what you've done here. I've been to Caribbean Week of Agriculture around the Caribbean. I've been to several meetings all around the world that are just talk shops. And I have a problem with them because they don't put bread on the table. They don't help farmers. And as a minister, I manage differently than anybody else. I manage based on information. I have the largest ministry in Antigua and Barbuda, Ministry of Agriculture, Land, Housing, Environment, Development Control Authority. We have 9 boards, we have 5 different statutory bodies, we have about 18 different departments. It's crazy. So in order for me to manage all of this, I must have information. So in the ministry itself, You have to have an information team that go out and bring the information back to me in a timely manner so I can make informed decisions. Some governments in the past made some mistakes. Yes, we are not perfect. But one of the biggest mistakes they made was to go to WTO and agree that they can dump anything in this region as they like, when they like and how they like, and sign on to it. Not realizing that if we work hard in agriculture, we can feed ourselves and produce all the food we need. It means that whether we produce all the tomatoes we need for our country and for the region, we still can't stop importing tomatoes to come in our region. That's cheaper. If you grow all the chicken in the Caribbean, WTO say we can't stop it unless it's phytosanitary regulations we're trying to use to restrict the import. You can't ban, but you can restrict based on phytosanitary or packaging or those things. And those conglomerates who make millions from exporting to us will never invest in ships and carriers to move our goods to the region. So you find if Antigua have 10,000 pounds of onions sitting in the shelf and it's too much for our market, to get it shipped to Guyana costs so much, you might as well leave it to rotten. And that's why when the JAGDO initiative came on board, I was fully on board with it, to ensure that what I am supposed to do in terms of getting the policy in place for the agriculture risk management. And pretty lastly, I went and got that done fast. So I felt it made sense for us to do what we had to do, to pool our resources together. I think Trinidad was to do with phytosanitary, and Sink is to do with shipping, and Bob is to do with finance. And if everybody did what they were supposed to do, in one of our meetings here, we'll talk about that at the ministerials, whether we should go on with the JAGDO initiative or just scrap it. Because ministers don't do their work and live up to their responsibilities enough in the region. One of the problems, the ministers change too fast. And every election, the Minister of Agriculture today is not the Minister of Agriculture next year. So things change so fast. But the technicians remain. So the work should not stop. Because the technicians, the ministries, and the governments in the country remain. And CTO and all the other organizations have the technicians. Why is it that the work is not being done? Maybe the media need to investigate that. Understand what the JAGDO initiative was all about, what it meant for the region, and find out why it's not being implemented properly. That's the media's role, to find out that. I started out by saying I want this workshop to be a meaningful workshop, not just talking. At the end of the day, we should have a document that determines the way forward, that are positive, that will bring tangible benefit to every hamlet in this Caribbean. We can feed ourselves. I believe that. We can feed ourselves. I got in trouble last year because when my information people told me that extension divisions and so on told me that we had a glut in certain types of foods, and we decided we will not sign no import license for certain product because they were in a glut in Antigua. The media picked it up, and most of the media didn't consult me first, understood what I was doing. But I think it was Article 11 of the WTO regulation that gives me the right as the minister to not ban but curtail import on certain grounds. I did just that. And the bottom line was to ensure that all the local food don't rot on the ground, but they beat them or go to the marketplace. And what we saw was a reduction in prices. We saw tomatoes in supermarket, imported tomatoes are going at $7 and $8 a pound, while the market will go for $2.50. And it was so much. So the housewife would have gotten tomatoes cheaper because we had a glut in the country at the time. But if I didn't curtail the import and we should refrain from signing that import license, what we'll have is millions of pounds of tomato going to the pigs or throwing away rotten, and our farmers will get despondent. Farmers in the region are getting despondent because they're producing, we tell them to produce, we go out and look funding for them, government subsidize their production in terms of cheap land, duty-free concessions and the rest of it. And when they produce, there's no guarantee that the marketplace, they get first preference to it. Something is wrong with that. I see something wrong with that. Young farmers, I met a lady just last week, I went to a farm. She's a chartered accountant in one of the big companies. She resigned and went into agriculture. She said to me, the plants don't talk back. And she have 5 acres of herbs and spices, well managed and well designed. She brought an expert to design a farm, and she organized, so well organized. A greenhouse with the seedlings, and I stayed about 3 hours with her, admiring the farm. Why we should allow cilantro to come in, and thyme, and parsley, and chives, and allow her to stay in the farm and dry? If that happened, she would get despondent and start producing. And this is where information comes in. I have to be supported by information. So when I'm called by the media and asked, why are you not signing Epicurean container of goods to come in, I can justify items on the list we can produce in Antigua and have in abundance, so I took this item on the list and speak from position of knowledge. I've asked ICA to help me with setting up in Antigua a communication system in the Ministry of Agriculture, so that the extension officer have a camera or some gadget to go in the field and film the field and send back information back to the main brain in the ministry, managed by a team of people, so we have that information in a timely manner coming in as to what's happening in the field. I told my extension officers I want them to be so sharp. I want to know how much mango trees in your district, how much plum trees, how much large, medium, and small farmers in the district, what land need to plow and when and how. Tell me everything about your district. Otherwise, you don't have a job as an extension officer. Because your job is to know what's happening in your district. We're falling on a job. Falling down on a job. From every level, we're falling on a job. And they find it strange because nobody ever told them that before. No minister ever get their face like that. And I will go with them in the field and show them what I'm talking about. To help people, you have to know people. And to help the farmers, you as the extension officer who's been paid to be extension officer must know the farmers you're there to work with. And get me the information fast so I can make informed decisions to help farmers. I'm practical in nature. I want results and I want it now. I can't wait. And I told my colleagues, I am the Minister of Agriculture today. Election is 2014. Number one, I don't know if I'm going to run again. Number two is I don't know if we win the election, the Prime Minister is going to put me back in agriculture. That's his choice. So I have to leave my mark now. I can't wait. So my life in agriculture is short. So I can't wait for talk shop and writing paper and writing paper and writing paper. I want result now. And I'm very practical with that. I want to leave a legacy. And I believe the next Minister of Agriculture, I want to work with him for free for at least 3 months to make sure all the things that I'm doing now can continue. So I believe it's the best way to go. Even if government change, I want the new Minister of Agriculture to understand what we have done so far is a good thing. Continue it and work with him. It's not for him, not for me, it's for our country. and the region as a whole. I was blessed with the position by God and the help of people to be here. I'm honored to be in the position. I wasn't born to be here, but I was born to serve and give the chance to serve at this level. I'm honored. And so, told somebody that I wasn't born to be a politician. I was born to love people, and that's what brought me into politics. Never died doing that. This week is going to be a wonderful week. We're here today because you know the football with the USA is on Saturday, so we can't touch the stadium because they're freaky with security, so we can't go up there now. But come early next week, we will transform that stadium into a wonderful site. We hope you have a wonderful week this week. I wanted to have the best Caribbean week of agriculture in history, in the history of the activity. I want you to have a wonderful experience, to enjoy Antigua, enjoy the beaches. Just down is a wonderful beach. Go there in the morning before you do anything else. Rejuvenate yourself so you can come to work, so you don't sleep on the job. Because as I said before, every workshop for this Caribbean Week of Agriculture, I think we're having the most workshop ever in the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. Because every organization in the Caribbean is involved. From youth to gender, everybody's involved in making sure that their voice is heard at this Caribbean Week of Agriculture. We have in all of the Director Generals that have to do with agriculture coming to Antigua, and don't leave, stay to the end of it, because we have some great things in store for you. And let this meeting be meaningful. And at the end of the day, give us something we can work with. I want something I can work with in Antigua. I want the media in Antigua to understand the role of agriculture in also the survival. And the work we do. They just must not listen to gossip, go in the fields too, and see the cadre of young farmers out there working every day. We have 25% of all our crops being stolen. It's a big issue. Don't wait until farmers cry out to go to them and find out what the problem is. 25% of all the vegetables and fruits and animals that are produced in this country has been stolen. 25%. Could you imagine you plant 100 banks of vine and you can decide what 25% is for everybody else? Just take out the 25. Whether those are the one that bear the most or not doesn't matter. They're taking one they want. And they pull at random. Anyway, I went to a guy last week and 180 root of cassava was pulled up. Somebody in the market selling cassava they don't grow. The police told him to get some soil from the cassava to test it to see if it's the same soil from where his crop is. Where the poor farmer know about scientific thing with the test soil. You understand what I'm saying? Because the guy said he found the cassava on the ground someplace. I know that some people are going to kill people. Because I farmed as a child with my grandmother and so on, and know the hard back-breaking work it is. Rather agriculture is more scientific now. But when you produce your food and wash the trees and the crop looking pretty, and somebody will harvest them, it's not just cry you cry. You want to kill somebody. And one of these days, somebody's going to hurt somebody. And you're going to hear farmers killing 3 and 4 people around the region for stealing. And I will celebrate that. I'm not going to cry. And I will find the money to help the farmers to get good lawyers to defend themselves. It is bad out there. 25% of the crop produced in the entire Caribbean has been stolen. And they find markets for it. In Dominica, they find export market for it. Stolen goods. In Antigua, sheep and goats are going to Guadeloupe on boats. It's a problem. Where is the media in all of this? Farmers' tractors have been stripped with all the wires and copper off it for export. Man buy a brand new tractor, park in his farm, when he go back, the engine is stripped down. All the iron and the pipes and the coppers come off of it for export. They build a barn house, they're going to pull out all the electrical wire to get the copper. That's why we had to do something in cabinet and stop all export of copper and those things out of the country for a while till we get a grip of it. Jamaica did that too. But farmers are suffering at the hands of all kinds of thieves. Where is the media to do a story in that and blow it up and a follow-up story and a follow-up story? And until the media do this, you're a talk shop. Until you do that where people can feel your presence, you're just another talk shop. Because it's real. You want to work with agriculture, understand agriculture. Understand what makes us tick out there. Understand what makes us tick. And how farmers survive. The difficulties they have. Some of them can't get people to work with them in the farm. They know black people in agriculture, how it goes. It's a slave thing. We've got to prove the economic benefits to get them to go in. Youth workshop, conference on agriculture benefit. Women in agriculture, young people in agriculture, start agriculture science in school. We start there to re-educate people the value of agriculture. Let's blow that up. Let's celebrate the young person going out into agriculture and encourage them and support them and buy from them. Let's do that. And if the media is not going to be focusing on those simple things, then your effort will be in vain. And many organizations in this region I have a problem with because they have a policy of, I have a library in my office and I have more than 5,000 documents over the years and policy positions and nearly everything you can think of in the region has been generated before in boxes piled up there like garbage. I have a CD scan done and policy documents and all the rest of it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Many things you talk about, we have done it already. So don't tell me you have to create a new policy and then hire a team to implement the policy, then a team to implement the implementing of the policy, and then somebody to vet the policy. I don't see why we did all of this bureaucracy, like we're creating jobs for our friends and well-wishers, and nothing coming down to the ground to people to benefit from. Ain't getting nothing. I went to Qatar a few years ago, and the Prince of Qatar took me for dinner. She was impressed with my presentation. I stopped a meeting in Qatar. Stop it, because the entire world was there. A meeting for South Corporation, talking about poverty in South areas, countries. The United Nations put this together in 1966, and there were 30-something countries in the South. It raised to over 100 countries in South. And poverty has tripled in South. And they have spent billions of dollars doing research. Billions doing research. And a brother from Jamaica got upset with me because I told him, Europeans have a system too. How much policy documents you have put together in the last 10 years? How much of those policies have been implemented and you see results from? But you're coming back in asking for permission to do another policy document to get more money again when you have not delivered in any of your policies. I explained to them, Gaddafi in Libya, where there's no water, pipe water from the Red Sea. They salt it and create ponds and dams in Libya and fill them with water, and are growing melons as big as some of you in here in the desert. That can be done. Some of the African countries without water. That can happen there too. Use some of the money and do that, and stop talking and spending millions of dollars in creating policy after policy, and somebody to implement the policy, somebody to research the policy, somebody to investigate the policy. When they come to Antigua and ask me questions to help them prepare a policy that we have already. We have already. I'm tired with that. Talk shop is a thing of the past. Otherwise, the region will never move and grow. The farmers must feel what you're doing in here in the not too distant future. By the media personalities going out to them and saying we're from the Caribbean Media Corporation, or Antigua Media Corporation. You need to look at what you're doing. What brought you to agriculture? What drives you as a young farmer? Talk to him. Feel his energy. And begin to be a defender of agriculture. And not just pick up the sensational news that come up from time to time and blow it up. And misinform people. You're doing agriculture an injustice. Go out there and get information. If you need information, they call me in my office all the time and ask me questions, and sometimes I don't even want to answer them. Because of what they hear somebody say, they're trying to repeat. They have no knowledge of what goes on in agriculture. The work, the stress they take to produce good quality, wholesome food. And as my job is, and my mandate as the Minister of Agriculture, is to ensure that good, wholesome, nutritious food is on the shelf of this country for my people's consumption at all times at the best price. That's my mandate. I prefer it to be grown locally because I'm sure of the chemical that comes in the country. I'm sure the chemical that comes in the country. I'm sure the chemical the farmers get to use, so I know what our people will be consuming. When chicken come from outside, they know how much hormone they pump them up with for people to eat. So children at age 4 and 5 having big breasts. Don't know what happening. So we've got to fight to make sure we produce what we eat. It's now people's interest and our own interest to produce what we eat, what we consume. So the media must get involved to ensure that the farmers are comfortable and support the ministry who's doing their best to make sure that we produce what we eat and that we eat what we produce. So, I'm sorry it takes so long, but I think it's off my chest. I want to wish you welcome to Antigua again, and hope that this week will be a wonderful week for you. That's my friend Garcia behind there, and many of my colleagues here. Welcome to Antigua. And those of you who are coming for the first time, hope you will not be last. I'm looking forward to interacting with you again during the week. And it gives me great pleasure to declare this workshop officially open. A workshop with a difference, a workshop that will bring tangible results. Some of the problems we're having in linking agriculture with the media. Thank you very much.